Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Dela Criss. If you watched my last video, 10 things to do if you are young, black, and broke, one of the things I talk, and obviously you can still follow these videos if you're not black and if you're not young and if you're just broke. They will be helpful. I'm just coming from that cultural background. One of the things that I mentioned that would be important if you realize that you were part of the broke community is that you need to lower your housing expense, especially as a black person, because a lot of us were not gifted with houses, not gifted with down payments when we got married. We weren't, all these different, obviously I know if you're white, you weren't guaranteed to get a house or anything like that. I'm just talking, even if we think back legally and historically, we weren't allowed to buy houses for a very long time. So that gap is what I'm acknowledging, how housing may not come as easy to us. And some of us weren't even gifted the time and space of living with our parents past 18 years old. And that was the privilege that I had that really helped launch us into home ownership and getting our finances and things in order. So if that is not your story, first of all, I know I said this in the last video, but kicking your kids out at age 18 is a generational curse that we have got to break. That's a whole nother video for another day. I can literally talk about that for 30 minutes, but we gotta stop that, okay? But let's just say none of those were your story and you realize, dang, I'm broke. And one of the biggest expenses that you probably have, depending on where you live, is your housing. So if you can get that under control, and I'm talking to people with limited incomes, or maybe you don't have a limited income, you have a large income, but you are living way above your means, so you've got to do something and you got to do it within the budget that you have. So we're gonna look at housing, and I want you to think creatively. That's my whole hope behind these videos is so many people give out the same tips, or they just say lower your expenses and they don't tell you how to do that. Well, we went about it in very creative ways, because one of the things that was important to us, because also as I talk about finances, it's quality of life too. So one of the things that was important to us is that I would not have to go back to work full time and put all the kids in daycare. That's, first of all, financially, that doesn't make a lot of sense. And secondly, that's not the quality of life we wanted to live. So I want you to be able to fix your finances without also having to sacrifice those big buckets, like those big rocks that are important to you. You will have to make sacrifices, but again, within your goals and what's important specifically to you. So one of the things we got creative about was our housing. So I want to share with you guys some tips in case this can help you lower your expenses. So like I said, creativity is the name of the game. The first thing that you're going to have to work on though is your mindset. You are going to have to get out of this idea that you cannot be concerned about what other people think. You cannot be concerned about what you look like living XYZ. You got to get rid of that, guys. Again, if you do this right, this is temporary. This is temporary. And I know it's hard. I've been there. I've lived in an RV. I've stayed with my parents. I've had people say, one day I was walking in my parents' neighborhood and someone told somebody else that, oh, Dela's not doing, someone from high school I went to high school with, Dela's not doing anything with her life. I saw she was living with her parents. What? Yo, people are incredibly petty. People, they put things on you that maybe they're going through and struggling with. So you got to let that go. Let it go. Do the work now so that later you can create a better life for you and your family, the people that actually matter. Okay, number one, if you own a home, because remember from my last video, you could be making 6 figures or more and own your own home and still be broke. Okay, so this video is for everybody. But if you own a home, you're gonna look at house hacking. You're gonna look at what space do I have around me? Do I have an empty basement, an empty room, an empty attic, whatever, that I can turn into a place that generates income, right? You're going to look at it and you're going to say, okay, do I know anybody in my life, maybe that goes to my church, or, you know, a niece, a nephew, somebody who needs help? It would help them and it would help us, that I trust. They're easy to live with. They're not going to bring any drama, because I get that those are all real things. But think outside the box. You can find someone who is peaceful to live with. You're going to set a price in your head that's worth it for you. And then one thing that's helpful is, I know it's not easy to live with people, or have people live with you. One thing that will help you is you're gonna set a price, right? So especially if you have a big house, like we don't have a big house, so this is not really an option for us. if you say $500 a month is going to make it worth it for you, then you look at the end of the year, you're going to say at the end of the year I'll have $6,000. I have an American Express card that has exactly $6,000 on it. That will then be gone after 1 year of using house hacking. That is encouraging. That's enough to keep you going. After that, you're going to, you know, write up an agreement, do all the right things to set it up, and, you know, make sure they know the rules. Maybe they provide their own food so that you're not jacking up your grocery budget, because we're going to hit that too. That's important. But look at house hacking. Don't just have empty spaces just sitting. You can look at foreign exchange students. I don't know much about this, but what I do know is people need a place to live, and you can do it in a safe way, y'all. And I think just with Americans, we really struggle with this, but in other countries, like, this is how you survive. And excuse me, I'm pregnant and this is the heartburn, but this is how you survive. And I'm trying to teach y'all how to make it. Inflation is real. We've got to tighten up. We've got to get creative. Now, a long-term thing to think about, if your house is not big, but you have space maybe in your backyard or something like that, and this is what my husband and I are looking at, is we're thinking about doing an apartment garage and renting the top of the garage part to somebody else. So maybe you have something you can turn into a tiny home or something like that, and you look at it and you say, this is where I'm different than Dave Ramsey, y'all, because I think that if you're smart with something, it can really generate income and get you ahead. But you're gonna look at your mortgage, you're gonna say, hey, what, you're gonna call the bank and say, hey, what if I added this to my mortgage? How much would that be every month? If they're like, oh, that'll be an extra $150 a month. Y'all, if you can build something or add something that's an extra $150 a month, and you know that you have the discipline right now to do that, and then in the future, you're looking at generating $600,000, $700,000 a month. That's worth it. So don't have a limited mindset around this, but look at, what do I own? How can I generate income from that? We've got to get out of just looking at going to work as the only way to earn money, okay? So the biggest thing with that point is monetizing our living space. Number two, if you don't own a home, you can still utilize the whole house hacking thing. Maybe there's a retired couple in your life. Maybe there's a young couple with no kids in your life. There's a friend in your life. Somebody that you can say, hey, let's partner together. You got to be able to cast vision. Let's partner together. Let's do this for a month. Let's do this, not a month. Let's do this for 6 months and see where we are then. Let's do this for a year. And what goals would this help you achieve? What goals would this help me achieve? What is a number that is fair to both of us that would make it worth it to both of us, okay? And so you're thinking, when you're doing this, guys, you're not always gonna have to live with someone. You're thinking 6 months, you're thinking a year, you're thinking a max 3 years, okay? That you can get your living under control, your housing costs under control, and reallocate that money to your other financial goals. And again, you're going to have those financial goals written down. I'll go over that in another video to know how to prioritize what. You're gonna have to have those written down so you can know how long this lasts and what are you presenting to someone, you know what I mean? And so I don't know, there could be a family that you could nanny for. I know that's a lot of work, live and nanny, but that's an option. So think through that. Obviously, if you have kids, this is gonna be a harder option because kids are messy, kids are loud, kids are unpredictable, all the things that kids are supposed to be, right? So there's nothing wrong with that. But I do want to tell you that it is going to be stressful if you try to do this with someone and you have kids and they're not understanding of how kids work, and maybe they had kids a long time ago and they forgot. So if you have kids, you may need to use one of my other options. But also, if you have kids, only look at house hacking if someone has a basement or completely separate area where y'all can kind of do life and not interrupt someone else's life. Not that I think kids are interruption. I know that other people see it that way. Number three, live in a less desirable part of town in an apartment. Guys, if you can cut your apartment living costs and say you're like, you have to live by yourself, you have kids and stuff like that. If you can cut it even by $400 a month, you are winning. So if you can go somewhere, people ain't getting murdered every day, you know what I mean? And you can live there, you can live a modest, quiet life there. Do it. Do it. It's temporary. Do it. It's temporary. Okay. Number four, along that line, especially if you have a family, get yourself a used mobile home. You can find them on Facebook Marketplace. You can find them on OfferUp. You can fix them up, or you can hire someone to fix them up. Again, you want to do this in a way that doesn't put you further into debt or a financial strain. So you want to get maybe one that just needs some paint, or you know what I mean? And then you can find a lot. You may know a couple that own some land that will let you put that trailer home on their land. Or you can probably live inexpensively in a trailer park. You just need to go kind of get the prices, and you want to make sure it makes sense. You want to make sure it is at least $500 cheaper than your living situation right now to make it worth it. Again, where I'm different than Dave Ramsey, some of these mobile homes you can buy on a credit card. Yes, that seems very radical, but guys, if my credit card payment is cheaper than my rent, I'm winning. But it goes back to that discipline factor, okay? So get you a mobile home. Say, hey, kids, we're going to live in this mobile home for 5 years. Y'all, some good paint, some thrift store decorations can make it feel like home. Again, mindset, okay? You have shelter. You have somewhere to live. Number 5 is an RV and a camper. I'm hesitant to even put this one out here, more so than the trailer park, because if you go buy a very expensive RV or camper and think that you're about to live this Instagram travel life in an RV, you're not going to save no money. You're going to go broke, okay? Because if y'all know our background, we all lived in a camper together. That camper was, I want to say, when it was all fixed up, said and done, that camper was like $4 grand. So when people talk about RVs and campers, they're not talking $4 grand, $2 grand. I think we bought it off Facebook for $2 grand and put $2 grand into it to fix it up. That's the only way it makes sense. If you have somewhere to park it, that's the only way it makes sense, because you can end up paying a lot to park it. So you have to run the numbers. And the biggest reason why I'm hesitant to share this one and why this one isn't for everyone is because the tiny living, all that, it takes an incredible amount of discipline. And it's really hard on your mind, and it's hard to do long term. People won't tell you that, but that's the truth. It's hard to do long term, especially if you have children. There's so many factors to consider. But again, if you live somewhere where rent is like $3,000, you can probably be better off in a mobile home. And then number 6 is to simply downsize. If you have a family and you're living in this 3-bedroom apartment because you think everybody needs their own room, they don't. They don't. They need financial stability more than they need their own room. So think through, maybe we just get a 2-bedroom apartment, adult room, kid room, get some bunk beds, call it a day. Or even if you have a little baby or 2 little babies, like maybe if you kind of like how we were, where all of our kids were 3 under 3 or 4 under 4, like that, you can literally buy an apartment with a good sized living room, a 1-bedroom, and set up a very cute corner in the living room for their sleeping area, and they're going to live, okay? And that can save you some money right there, okay? And the last one I want to talk about is group homes. And this is something that is really important and really dear to my husband and I's heart, to the point where in a year or 2 we hope to have our own group home. And you can find these on Facebook, you can find them in the newspaper. What year is this? But you can find, you just have to get creative. And I know some people think of group homes as like halfway homes if you're getting out of prison or if you have a mental health issue. There are some group homes, which is kind of how ours are going to be. They're just young adult group homes, or they're just group homes for single people, where there's nothing going on there. It's just a bunch of people together living and needing affordable housing. It can be a very good experience if you find the right one, okay? So again, creativity. And this is just one way. If none of these like are actual options for you for whatever reason, I'm going to continue to get on here and talk about different lifestyle changes, life management changes that can happen, that can help you kind of get out of this rut of feeling stuck with your friend. I know how frustrating it is. I know how defeating it can feel, but it's not defeating, guys. You can make it through. I'm sure even some of the things I said, your mind is turning and you have some ideas. Actually put them below if you have some more ideas. But it's all about creativity is the game. Thinking outside of the box, thinking outside the norm, looking at what we can monetize. And so yeah, I hope that was helpful for you. Let me know if you've tried any of these, if you have any that I forgot. And again, if this is something that's interesting to you, if you are trying to climb yourself out of a financial situation, or maybe the inflation is really hitting you hard right now and you just need help, be sure to subscribe. I think you have to hit a bell, I'm not sure, so that you can follow along and you can be getting in on these videos and you can be telling me what it is that you actually need to know that's going to be helpful for you guys. We are going to make it, okay? We're going to make it together. Love you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.